My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I am calling the public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Let me get rid of this. There we go. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order of March 12, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the meeting, the public may access this call through video conferencing or telephone. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of the commissioners, Delia, and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. Screen sharing will not be permitted unless absolutely necessary. All votes will be taken by roll call vote. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the December 2nd, 2020 NRC meeting. This meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on the Minuteman Media website. If anyone is recording the meeting, I ask you to so inform the commission. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Greg?
You're muted, Greg.
Oh, God, I reversed it. Aye.
Nick?
Nick Pappas.
Thank you. Judy?
Judy Sonbrecker.
And Sarah?
Sarah Grimwood.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we've got a couple continuances, as Delia noted, 150 Garfield that was just added last minute, as well as 443 Old Bedford Road. Could I have a motion to continue both of those to the December 2nd without discussion?
I make a motion that we continue to December 2nd, 2020, two issues. One, 43 Old Bedford Road, DEP file number 1371504, and 150 Garfield Road, 1371524.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and we'll take the vote. Nick?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And Sarah?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Okay. So we'll go to the continuances to be heard this evening. The first one up is 449 Strawberry Hill Road, DEP file number 1371538. And who is here to present this for the owner?
I am Curtis Plateau from Stamsky and McNary, presenting for 449 Strawberry Hill Road.
Hi, Curtis.
Hi, how's it going, everyone?
Okay.
Yeah, could you put up the, thank you. So this project, as you guys know, is for the removal of 61 trees within the buffer zone, 4 of which are within the wetland. And all trees within 25 feet of the wetland and within the wetland itself will be cut to 3-foot stumps. Since the previous hearing, we have proposed mitigation in a form of 6,500 square feet of invasive removal, 3,000 square feet of replantings with shrubs, and 3,500 square feet of replanting with native seed mix. The proposed retaining wall has been moved onto the existing driveway and has been shortened from 250 feet to 180. And minor parts of the 2-story dwelling that have been updated since the previous, and there were minor things that weren't shown as parts of the dwelling itself that have been updated. If there are any questions, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and comments on any of it.
Okay. Thank you, Curtis. I guess I'll just, broadly open it up and just, generally, we do respect that there's a large number of trees being removed here. Initially with the arborist, there was 102 trees, I believe.
Yes.
It's been, significantly reduced, once the, staff got involved, reviewed the trees and try to make a better determination of what could be saved. But it does appear that, for the most part, the tree removal is really predicated upon both the driveway reconstruction as well as around the house and the drive towards the house in terms of, practicality and safety, which is our primary issue. So, again, just broadly speaking, the commission, does care about the trees. They are important issues for them. And I think it's probably fair to say that, we see mostly tree removal in front of us because it has to come in front of us. But I respectfully, I think there's many trees or tree removal requests that are denied by staff as well. And we just don't see these in front of us. So,
Okay.
so that's just really a statement in regard to, kind of the large degree of trees we see here, but they are driven by the proximity of the work, which is really a replacement in kind. It's not an expansion of the driveway or of that matter. So, and then as far as I can see, there was a laundry list of things to do. It looks
Yes,
like
there was.
the majority of it got accomplished. That I believe that out of respect for the homeowner, given the late season of where we find ourselves, I'm not sure the driveway work might, given the asphalt plants and the seasonality of that, and depending on how the weather trends over the next month. But certainly the tree work could probably be gotten to in terms from a safety perspective with the winter coming. So, again, that just kind of is a big picture of the project itself, and the trees and the concern of, the total amount being removed. And I think that as I looked at the conditions, there are some conditions that will require further follow-up and plans so that, what was done is in keeping with, the plans today. And if there's any changes to that, they'll be documented appropriately. So I guess with that, I'd just like to get, some other thoughts from the commissioners out there in regard to this proposal. Yeah, Judy.
Yeah, it's just a question. I was looking for the 25-foot no disturb zone waiver request, which has been provided. Was that in this week's packet, Delia, or that was
That
last?
was previously provided.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
It is on the website. If you want me to pull it up, I can pull that up.
Yeah, because I think we tend to review those just as a matter of protocol. I might be wrong on that, but I thought that's what we typically did.
Yeah, Delia, can you pull that up?
Yep, hang on one
Thank you.
second.
Thank you. And I do appreciate you shortening the wall. Thank you for that.
Of course. I think you guys pointed out a good point that it was a little bit longer than it might have needed to be.
And,
So
can you see that?
yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So all the trees that'll be cut will be at least 3-foot stumps, correct?
All the trees within the 25-foot, yes.
Within the 20, yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Could I just ask, if I'm remembering this correctly from reading this week's update, were there only 3 trees being left as snags?
I believe it's 2.
Was that
yes.
2? Okay.
3.
Yeah, and that was
3.
discussed with Delia and the arborist Jay Webster at one point.
Okay. Okay. I just wondered how the decision came about for the 3. Delia, maybe you can enlighten us, please.
So we looked at what trees would be, feasible from a wildlife habitat standpoint, as well as what would be, leaving as a 10 to 12-foot high snag, what would not interfere with falling onto the driveway or through overhead wires.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any of the other commissioners have any other questions, concerns? Okay. We'll go to the public for public comment.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Hi, it's Tanya Galis, 62 Prescott Road, and my husband Mark is here too.
Hello.
Hi, how are
You know,
you?
fine, thanks. As you know, we wrote a letter this morning. One larger issue that I would like to mention is that the entire treatment of the discussion as a property rights matter when the wetland bylaws are also part of the same social contract. So that, you know, if there are those bylaws, why aren't we all abiding by them? Especially given the huge number of trees that are being cut. I mean, if it was 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 trees that were dangerous, I understand that discussion, but it seems very unlikely that 61 trees would be dangerous. In fact, if you take some trees out, the rest will be more likely to fall. And the other issue that stands out is that the arborist that is being hired to give opinion as an expert is also the same arborist that will be doing the tree clearing. And that sounds like a conflict of interest. So I guess those are the two issues I'd like to highlight. That whatever is dangerous, okay, but really dangerous, okay, but the rest of just clearing such large amounts of trees to accommodate the homeowner when we have a bylaw, a social contract that a lot of people passed at town meeting for a reason, seems like just ignoring the solemnity of the bylaws. So thank you. I don't know if Mark, you have something to say.
No, I just simply wanted to thank everybody. I'm glad that the proposed number of trees is reduced from the beginning. I appreciate that. But again, I would strongly encourage the commission to exercise its right to, you know, protect these natural resources provided by the trees. I mean, even dead trees have value. Safety concerns sometimes are overblown, and like Tanya is saying, you know, please weigh the into consideration that there's an incentive for someone who is profiting from cutting trees to advise the occupant that perhaps more, the owner that perhaps more, you know, on the side of cutting more trees. So I'd encourage you to take it all into account, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Would you like me to speak to any of that? Sorry.
Sure, feel free.
So one of the, I obviously am not an arborist. I don't understand the specifics to the risk factors of the trees. My understanding was that a large portion of these trees not only cause a safety risk to the homeowner while driving and while in their home, but also cause a risk to the existing property, the driveway. Many of the roots from the trees that are proposed are impacting the driveway and will continue to impact the driveway when the repavement that's proposed will occur. So that speaks to it as well. Another thing is regarding the bias of our arborist. I know that he walked the site with Delia, and I trust her judgment as well as I do our arborist as they decide what trees could present some sort of effect to the homeowner themselves.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'll just add to that a little bit if Ed, you want me.
Yeah, no, please. I think that would be helpful. The background.
So Tanya, I certainly share your concern with amount of tree removals. And when we first saw the proposal come in for 102 trees to be removed. We had obviously, a lot of concerns about that. Asked the applicant to bring on an arborist to evaluate each and every one of the trees, which he did. And we reviewed all of those trees together in the field. A lot of the trees, so the driveway has not, I don't know when it was last repaved, but it's obviously in very poor condition. It's a narrow driveway. It's, approximately 10 feet wide. And a lot of the trees are up to the edge of the driveway. So when the driveway is going to be reconstructed, if you don't take those trees down that are right next to the driveway, which is quite long, but you can see on the site plan, it is a long driveway. If you don't remove those trees, it is going to cause the reconstruction of the driveway will cut into the root system of the trees, and if they don't immediately come down, they will become hazards, within the next year or so. And then, the other trees that were proposed and recommended by staff for including for removal are those that are basically that are threats to the structure itself. The homeowner has had, I think on 2 occasions, trees come down over the driveway and over the overhead power lines. And so it's a very wooded condition. And there is going to be some tree replacement, within the BVW that was a special condition that staff is recommending that for the 4 trees that come out in this area, that 4 trees are replaced. And then there's, substantial woody, it's not going to be so much trees as much as shrubs that will be replaced as an offset, as well as invasive species removal. So, the arborist's function is to evaluate the trees. He works for a company that does perform tree removals, but that's not what his job is. His job is to evaluate the health and the condition and the likely probability of failure of those trees.
I thought that during the last meeting, which I watched this morning, the owner, the applicant said that she was hiring the same company for the removal.
And that may be, but they're different agencies within that organization. I'm just saying the arborist role is not tree removal. That doesn't.
Yeah. Of course, I respect your assessment about the trees very much. It's just that I do wish that it was the driveway project that was altered to accommodate the trees better and not the other way around, something like that. That the priority was not so much on property rights when there are wetland bylaws concerned.
Well, and I would say that if the driveway project had encompassed an expansion of the driveway, which resulted in tree removals, that would have been a different conversation. But this is a driveway replacement within the existing, limits of where that driveway is. That driveway is the trees along that length of driveway are quite close, to the edge of the driveway as it is. It's a somewhat unusual condition, which I think is resulting in just a very high number of trees that are being proposed for removal.
Thank you for hearing our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment out there on this case? Okay, well, I believe we have a motion ready for this.
Ed?
Yeah.
I just might suggest that because there was, usually we want to see some additional information. There's some conditions that I think you might want to just explain to the applicants.
Yeah. Let me pull that up on a separate though, because that's in I didn't print that out, all the specials.
I can probably pull that up on the screen.
That would be great. That would be great.
Just one
For
second.
those that last conditions, 58, 59, 60, thereabouts.
Something, yeah, let me just pull it up and we can see see which ones. Okay, so these are just pretty standard. This
Yeah.
22 is about the trees being removed, with a crane from the driveway, and that the snags will be 10 to 12 feet high. 23 is to, as mentioned just now, that 4 trees are coming out from the BVW and 4 will need to be replaced. 24 is pretty standard. It's already been presented by the applicant. 27, also pretty standard. Just once, the restoration area has been accomplished, then there's some reporting that's associated with that. There's a condition that there's no CR removals of any trees unless there's permission from the homeowner as well as the Natural Resources Commission. There had one of the staff comments that hadn't been addressed was that there's some fill material that has been brought in. That's going to need to be removed before those areas are
that's right.
seeded.
Yeah.
So we'll want to coordinate with Curtis. I don't know if that's with you or who that is, but to determine what that amount of unsuitable material is that was brought in during that construction and have that removed so that when material is brought in for loaming, that it's maintaining the same grades, but also providing a good planting medium.
Okay, that'll be the landscaper. I believe I can forward you his contact information.
I would share this with him and he can, have a plan prepared when he's ready to do that.
Yeah.
The plan talked about putting down a native seed mix in the conservation restriction of those areas that were cleared. We're including a condition that's going to be restored with native shrubs.
Okay.
It's still restored to a woody condition, but it's a treed condition that's going to cause concern for the homeowner.
Makes sense.
And then also, just so it's clear where that conservation restriction boundary is, because the house is very close to it, we're including a condition that 3 bounds will be set, 2 at the southeast, southwest property corners, and then 1, along that eastern property line, the back of the house. So that's just a little bit clarity for both parties. And that is pretty much it for, unusual conditions that haven't come up so far.
Okay, thanks, Delia.
Yep.
And Curtis, you're good with all those?
Yeah. Ying, do you have any comments on those? I know she's here.
Yeah, hey, yeah, I'm here. So I don't have something to say, but I just want to keep every tree, everything. I respect the natures, so I will respect each tree. So thank you for everybody.
Yeah, we're gonna follow the rules and regulations. There will be, nothing else to be done.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, now we might be ready for the motion.
Do it. I move that we close and issue an order of conditions for 449 Strawberry Hill Road, DEP file number 1371538 with findings A and B, standard conditions 1 through 19, and special conditions 20 through 59.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you, Greg. Okay, we'll take the vote. Nick,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Okay, moving on to the next case, Fenn School, 676 Monument Street. I think we have Let's see. I think what I wanted to just simply note here, which is we have some, again, some specific conditions, Delia, as well, in the order of conditions. I think those are 22 to 30, if I'm not mistaken, that kind of speak more specifically to this project.
Yes. Give me 1 second and I'll pull those up.
Yeah. And I just wanted to highlight one of those conditions, which is, I think, was the timing that was discussed last time. I believe we had talked about April 1 to October 31st, and there was some discussion about the early part of that April 1 date. And I think that it's been, notwithstanding that discussion, condition 22 here states May 1 through October 31st. But of course, and I think Delia, this was changed, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it was. I didn't save it to my.
Changing in real time here. Yeah.
Sorry.
There we go. But and again, I just in consulting with staff, they felt strongly enough that they would like to put their eyes on it on an annual basis, prior to April 1 with the school. They determined it wasn't a burden necessarily for them to just kind of confirm that. So that has been modified since last hearing's discussion. So I just wanted to point that out to the commissioners as well as the public, and to Fen, of course.
Ed, can I ask a question about that, or is now not the time for that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That was the only thing that I think was, different than last time. So I just wanted to point that out as part of the process here.
Yeah.
Sure, David, please.
I just wanted to ask in relation to that, since that's about putting the dock in, if we felt like we wanted to canoe before then, I assume that's like every other time of the year. If we had the nerve to put a canoe in without the dock, we could do it, but the dock shouldn't go in until such time.
I would think that would be fine. How do
Thank
the
you.
other commissioners feel? I think that would be all right.
That'd be totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
I want to point out, unless I have an outdated version, there's a numbering problem in the OOC. After
Mhm.
38, it goes back to 20.
Right.
So it does. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it happens again after 37.
Okay, we'll clean that up. I'm sorry about that. That happens again. Let me
We'll make
just-
sure it's all,
oh, there it
Yeah.
is.
We need to make sure there isn't some substantive
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah.
So we can't close tonight.
It's all set now. It's up to 57.
Okay. So,
okay, good.
okay. There are no extra or duplicate sections or paragraphs or anything. Okay.
I'll double check it. I'm sure the applicant will as well. And if there are any duplicate sections, they can be administratively changed before the order gets recorded.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, I didn't see any duplicates when I read through it.
Yeah, nor did I when I initially read through it. Thank you, Nick, for picking that up. Any other comments by the commissioners? Okay. Any comment from the public on this? Okay, hearing none. I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll do it. I move that we close and issue an order of conditions for Fenn School, 676 Monument Street, DEP file number. Where is the DEP file number?
1534.
Okay, 1371534 with findings A through G, standard conditions 1 through 19, and special conditions 20 through 57, Delia?
Mhm.
Okay,
Second.
Thanks, Greg. And we'll take the vote. Judy,
Aye.
Nick,
aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and Sarah.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right. You're off. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone, for your really great feedback as we went through this process. I think it helped make it a better project altogether. So we really do appreciate that.
Yeah, we really appreciate your input and involvement as well. Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Middlesex School, 1400 Lowell Road, and who will be discussing that this evening?
Ryan Chmielewski, landscape architect, Weston and Sampson. I believe
good evening,
Steve
Ryan.
McCune is here. Good evening.
I know we got a fair amount of new data, some additional reports and plans, so maybe you can kind of just touch on those.
Sure. Some time has passed, so just getting my head into what's changed and what was existing. But based on the picture shown there, at the previous meeting, we had shifted and adjusted the fields to be without that 50-foot no build zone. We've provided some feedback regarding the stormwater detention. And recently, within the past couple of days, have gotten comments back from the town engineer, and our civil engineer is in touch with him directly, and they'll work that out together. We provided graphic cross sections or profiles of the walls, so people can understand what that looks like. We have an east-west section A. We show Lowell Road to the left, and then the drop down into the wetlands. The buffer or the upland review area of the wetlands, of which some is grass playfield right now, and up to that plus or minus 7-foot wall, 4-foot fence on top. And just to give some scale, we showed some people and soccer goals in the background, just to give people some idea. Additionally, to this purpose, Steve was gracious enough to park a Kubota tractor out in the field at the corner of where that wall is. So it gave a perspective from Lowell Road looking into the campus, and it's a bright orange vehicle, and it's kind of tough to see through the brush, and a black fence and a native stone wall will disappear even more into the backdrop. So you could see the Kubota tractor in the background.
Yeah. Got it.
Do you have any shot? Do you have a shot of it looking from the road directly in at a 90-degree angle when you'd be driving by and turning your head?
There's one more view.
Yeah, this was. I think this is the same view, isn't it? Just from a slightly different angle.
I'm happy to chime in on this one. That's
There you go.
one panoramic walk into the path there, and another one was straight on. So it's the exact same location on the road looking in, but I was going much slower than the car on the Lowell Road.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ryan, for discussion tonight?
There were several comments pertaining to the chemical makeup and things of that sort. Mary Rudman, unfortunately, she apologized she couldn't be here tonight to answer questions directly. However, we do have her scheduled for the next hearing. So any comments regarding that type of environmental impact is beyond my expertise and Steve's. So we'll table those discussions until the following meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And just for the commission, Mary is a toxicologist who works with Weston and Sampson, and was going to respond directly to some direct questions, and also just in general EPA reports on the fill that is consistent with the eco fill.
Okay.
So that we'll have a memo, and she'll also be in person, I guess virtually, for the next meeting.
Okay, and she'll be able to provide that memo prior to the meeting, so we have some time to do our best to review it anyway. It's, you know, quite technical at times, but
Correct.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, she's already got a draft in place. We're reviewing it, and we expect to have it in sooner than later.
Okay. Again, it's certainly not my area of expertise either, but you know, for example, though, I know there was a statement in the filing that there's no zinc present in the material, but it seemed to me that when I read I think there was a report filed this week on the Wisconsin University, and on either page 69 or 70, when they ran their analysis of metals, you know, zinc was present in the solids that make up the material. So it's, you know, just some basic inconsistencies that I saw. And again, I'm not an expert in these things, but I'm just, you know, picking up some inconsistencies and just wondering how it all kind of plays out. So, you know, those type of things would really want to be kind of, you know, thought out. And, you know, and again, those are solid analysis of the material. They're not really what's leached out of those in water. I know you provide some additional documentation from Fenn's school, but again, it's not, I know crumb rubber is a higher potentially, you know, might contribute more to the metals, but nonetheless, they're not necessarily the same. And then, and again, we move into this issue about plasticizers and PAHs. And I think Judy brought this up last time at the last hearing. So those are, I think it's fair to say, at least in my mind, ongoing concerns. And again, if Mary can produce that report, but also help put that in some layman's terms, so it's not just a technical report, that would be helpful as well.
Yes, that'll be my job as a landscape architect to really to go through it, because yes, to put it in layman's terms, sometimes when I read it, I have to read it over and over again, and I'm like, okay, it makes sense, but I'll try to be that middleman. So if I understand it, you should understand it.
Yeah, Judy, please.
Because we've talked, and rightly so, about the potential chemicals that could be leached from the materials. Was there any discussion or a review of looking at the particulates, in particular micro particles that would be washed from the field into the ecosystem? Because that's not necessarily specific chemicals, but rather particles that can contaminate the environment and cause harm to in particular the animals in the wetlands.
Yeah, she is getting her head into that. And part of her response, her draft response, did address some of that, but it's just not ready for public consumption yet. We want to
Okay, great. Thank you, Ryan.
If I might, I guess this would go to Steve in this sort of question. I sit here thinking, you know, that we're asking somebody to take technical expertise and boil it down to the layman. And my thinking is, if you did a grass field, I don't think we'd need that. And I just say to the school, when you're sitting and discussing this, what is the overriding need for the turf? I know turf costs a lot of money. It'll last a while, and then you replace it. And Judy's questions about what's flowing in, we wouldn't be worrying about any of that, and we'd have a natural turf field that you've leveled up, which should wear longer, and you can drain it properly, and all those sorts of things. It's just, to me, it's just, I don't understand why the school took the course of going to artificial turf in Concord, Massachusetts, in a beautiful, beautiful New England secondary school. I just don't understand the necessity of that.
No, and and it's something I probably haven't done a great job of explaining, but really when we look at our program, and again, this was in response to the past 3 years looking at our just a athletics task force. The playability was number one reason. Even our really nice natural grass fields are not playable for our varsity programs. And then they're the ones who move to the 2 existing turf fields, and we cancel the rest of our interscholastic competitions. That amounted to 25%.
Having played sports for years and years on athletic fields and none of them were turf fields, why do they become inaccessible and unusable if you've brought them up, leveled them, and done them as professionally as I'm sure you will? What makes them unusable?
The seasons that we're playing, we're out there in the early spring and the late fall. We have increased rain events, all of the above. It's been provided, and it's something that also resulted from our water resources and resilience study. It's not something that we take to this commission lightly. Frankly, we do have 2 turf fields that do work well for us. They are the crumb rubber variety. We haven't looked to expand on that over time because we've been waiting for a different product that has a good track record, and we believe this EcoFill is that. And we're learning about it more as we dig into this and working with a toxicologist, and we've heard it from the salespeople, and now we're digging in and doing our homework as well. We want to make sure we're not exposing anybody in our community and general Concord community to something that's not appropriate. So I hope you can respect that. But with that, the other issue we do have is we do have an equity issue throughout our programs. We have 2 turf fields, and in the fall we have boys and girls soccer, we have field hockey, we have a lot of varsity programs that are vying to play on artificial surfaces at the college level, and that's what the pressures are to see those kids play in the high school level. But then again, when we are starting to reschedule our athletic teams due to inclement weather, it's really hard to say that only varsity gets to play games and sub-varsity is not worthwhile. And same goes for, say, boys varsity soccer and JV soccer plays on the 2 turf fields and the girls are on the grass, or vice versa. It definitely has its own challenges that an additional 2 turf fields would solve for us. So there's just the general playability, and there's also the equity that we're looking to solve. So.
Yeah, and to further answer Mr. Higgins' question about playing in the rain, once the topsoil becomes saturated, a lot of research has been done in the past 10, 15, 20 years on when to play and when not to play on your grass fields. And a single game on a saturated field can destroy the soil structure, and it may never be recoverable from not recoverable So
wait a
and
minute,
then the field,
A heck of a game.
you never regrow the grass?
not regrow the grass, but establish the original soil structure. Essentially, all your pores and your micropores that allow air and water down to the roots and provide space for that to grow, that becomes compacted and crushed. Just like if you have heavy machinery constructing an athletic field, you destroy the sub-base material and it becomes an impenetrable underground.
Well, maybe so. I can sort of understand from a competitive nature of the school wanting to have equity among their students, and also preparing them if you're attracting students that are highly skilled and would go on to play in college. I can understand some of that, but you're doing an awful lot to these fields anyways, and I'm just as the introductory to your campus along the road to have artificial fields, I think is improper. That's all. I get your point, Stephen, and I know you're doing the best economics for the school, I'm sure, in terms of that, but played on a lot of muddy fields and never knew that anything was wrong with that. So
No, and
I'll shut
honestly,
up about it. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but that's okay.
I appreciate your comments, and it's something that we have discussed at
I'm
length.
sure you have.
Yeah, and I have to say, I concur with Greg. The message that comes across to me is that competitive sports in the school's ethos is more important than the environment. And that unfortunately is what's being shown to not only people coming into campus, but I think is inherent then in terms of what the children learn at the school. And I think that that's unfortunate.
Well, and I've spoken to this group before. Our athletics program is just part of the larger program. We do have a 3-sport requirement, and we do believe that the athletic fields are an extension of the classrooms, and they do act as a learning lab that is important for our student base. So, it is not just that we are looking to be competitive. We do believe we're doing important work on those fields. So, but I do understand where you're coming from.
Okay. One other comment I would add, I think on the mitigation, and maybe that this will be pinned down next time a little bit more so, but I think we'd like to see that on a plan a little bit more, exacting in terms of where you want to provide the mitigation in the wetland and along with specific details and specs on the pollinator meadow as well. I think there are more generalities today, and I think we need that on a plan with specifications on how the pollinator meadow will be constructed, and again identify the areas of the mitigation that would be required.
Sure. In response to that, we provided a spec for prepping the seed bed for establishing that meadow mix, and that was really it. There's a little more involved, that timing of maintenance in the fall when you first cut, after the first season, and really setting the expectation that a meadow doesn't happen in a year in the first season like lawn seed does or grass seed does. So grass seed, everyone sees it green up and like, all right, this is looking good. But in a meadow situation, you plant the seed and you're like, there's a ton of bare spots. What's happening? And you really just, by year 2 and 3 is when it's looking fantastic. So the maintenance in between the point in which you seed and protect your slopes and protect your wetlands and establish the pollinator meadow that we're looking for, there's some work behind that. So we'll provide a summary on how to do that.
That would be great. And again, the soil prep would be important there too, just to,
yeah.
So all that, seed mix can take appropriately. So thank you. Commissioners, have any other comments here? Okay. Turning to the public, comments from the public.
I see that Jane has her hand raised.
Okay.
Thank you. And Jane Hotchkiss, I'm on the select board in Concord, and I did want to just voice my disappointment that Middlesex is falling in line with so many schools in embracing artificial turf. My brother played on the fields at Middlesex as a student, and as I've heard comments made before, was no worse for that. I also want to strongly encourage Middlesex to look at all of the emerging environmental turf options that are out there. As a select board, we just heard from Minuteman Tech, who has proposed some new fields at their new facility, and have gone with it's a turf field, but they're using a biomass substrate, a biomass component. It is not the one you've described. It's fairly new enough to potentially even need to be mown, but has many of the benefits of greater seasonal lifetime. And to Mr. Higgins' comments, I think there are many obligations on schools to demonstrate forward thinking and competitiveness. And as a mom of people in that age range, I know that the environmental footprint of a boarding school is something that many, many, many applicants are going to look at and many families will consider. So if you have to go with an artificial playing field, I would strongly encourage you to look at where the science is going and where the tech is evolving, not what exists just, most comfortably right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I think the next one up is Mark Miles has had his hand up.
Oh, yes. Yep. Mark?
There I am. I'm unmuted now. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have a couple of questions, and I'll pose them both together. And you may, the folks from Middlesex may not have answers at the moment, but I would appreciate getting those answers for the future. The first is, and is it Ryan Chmielewski? Am I close?
That's great. Yep.
Yeah. You
Yes.
mentioned that there is research that indicates that a single use of a natural turf field in muddy or rainy conditions can damage it. I am familiar with a lot of research in this area, but not this particular one. And I'm wondering if it's reasonable to ask that you provide a citation to this research to the NRC and the rest of us to review.
Sure.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
I would appreciate that. And my second question has to do with recycling. The manufacturer, I looked at some of the manufacturing literature and their safety data sheet and so on. They do point out, first of all, this is the infill material for this product is clearly superior to crumb rubber. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. And I'm pleased to see that you've done that. But it's still plastic. And they talk about the fact that this material, their product, is completely recyclable. As synthetic turf fields begin to be retired, their typical lifetime is something like 12 to 15 years. These things are accumulating in landfills and scrap yards. And I'm wondering what the plan is by Middlesex for the end of life disposition of this field when it needs to be retired and replaced.
George.
I'm
you
happy
want
to
to take
respond to that, Ryan, as representative of the school, and appreciate that, Mr. Miles. Just from best practices is what we always look to adhere by. Not sure what that might look like in the lifetime when that turf field comes to its useful end. It is something that we have considered with our existing turf fields to lessen the use and maximize the lifespan we do get out of that. So we are not just being wasteful and adding to landfills. So, it would be our intent to recycle, and what that looks like in 15 to 20 years is something that, we would do our best.
Has money been set aside for recycling or whatever disposition will be required in 12, 15 years?
For any capital improvement project on campus, there's always dollars set aside for maintenance, and replacement of turf would be considered part of that. So,
well, that would be for replacement. I'm talking about the disposition of the unused retired material.
No, I understood your question, and again, I'd like to say that wouldn't be a problem. So I'm not sure where we would be committing to at this point in time, knowing what that would look like in 20 years, but we would definitely do our best to do what's best practice.
Let me just point out, this is not common practice in this country, but in many countries in Europe, it is required when making this sort of project that a bond be established for the end-of-life disposition of this. And if, I've heard you say that you want Middlesex to be, I don't know if you use the word avant-garde, but you want to be in the top tier of best-in-class performance. It would seem to me that that would be an appropriate thing for Middlesex to do, even though it's not required by regulation or law. And that's all. That's it from me.
Thank you. Delia, anybody else out there?
So Janet has had her hand up, and then Sharon McGregor.
Great.
So I have another number of concerns, and Judy certainly iterated some of them with the plastic pellets going into the environment where they will cause damage. There's also concerns about artificial turf being harder, causing more injuries, et cetera, et cetera. But my real question is, are you aware of the work of Greg Osborne from Marblehead, who's done a lot of work in developing organically maintained grass fields using deep-rooted native fescues? And there's a lot of data on how good those fields are, both from Marblehead and from Springfield. A lot of data on playability, how to maintain them. They're not more expensive to maintain than regular turf fields, but they're somewhat different in the maintenance. And Ryan, you mentioned soil compaction. One of the things that these fields do require is coring of the soil to allow that drainage to happen. So I mean, I can send you that information if you'd like it.
Yeah, so I'd like to respond to that. I'm not specifically aware of Greg Osborne out of Marblehead or the Springfield area. I do have experience working with other municipalities and their turf managers who have an organic maintenance program townwide. And they have done a lot of research on the latest and greatest grass that comes out, and one of those is Rhizotomous turf fescue, RTF. So it's similar to what you're talking about with Greg Osborne, I imagine. And the RTF does show superior performance over in green up and drought resistance. However, it's, they've used it for infields and baseball, and they've gotten really great success for that. They won't plant anything different. However, for high wear areas, it doesn't withstand or hold up to that heavy traffic. So really, for a high-end athletic field at this point, while the research is still burgeoning on the RTF, the bluegrass and perennial ryegrass mix is still superior. And then also having the additional, sometimes adding in that RTF into the mix may provide helpful as well. And in terms of cultural maintenance practices too, if you're core aerating during spring, fall, or up to 4 times a year, you are temporarily providing that relief for the grass and decompaction. However, really would need to add sand, imported sand from that's very specialized. It's USGA 2mm spec sand into the mix to really sustain aeration and pore space for the roots to grow. If you put the cores back down, it's just putting the same soil back down, and it eventually just fills up the holes and stays clogged up again.
Well, I think it would be good if the school took a look at the studies which have been performed in conjunction with the Toxic Use Reduction Institute of the University of Massachusetts in Lowell. and look at the data that they have produced. And maybe, you know, if you're rebuilding that field, then you can add sand, surely. Add sand to the soil.
So it'd be great to dig up that research, and I'm always personally I love reading about it, and I'm always interested in new technology coming out.
I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Janet. And is
Sheriff
there?
McGregor, Ed?
Yep.
I'm sorry, did you have something else?
No, I think you're up, Sharon.
Okay, great, thank you. I have first a quick question and then a comment. The soil, as I understood from the last meeting, I don't know if I misunderstood, that you would be taking away the topsoil and using it elsewhere on the campus? Is that right?
Yes. Thanks. Sorry, Ryan. Correct.
That's correct, okay. So while it's not a deep excavation project like we have seen at our high school in recent years, it's be taking away the living soil from the site. So thank you for that clarification. And this is a real tough thing to do, but I think that what we're seeing here with Middlesex and with so many other schools is a failure to consider your decision-making as part of a collective of decisions regarding the land. And I'm speaking right now about other schools, be they colleges, high schools, around the state and across the country and around the world that are increasingly going for artificial turf fields. And the eco-friendly choice you've made is wonderful. It's an improvement. However, it's still problematic with respect to the removal of the topsoil and the removal of the vegetation along with that, and the fact that that land is no longer going to perform its functions of carbon, water, and nutrient cycling, retention of water in the landscape, carbon drawdown, all of that. And in isolation, it's not a problem. But Middlesex School is not the only place where this is happening. It's happening not only in the construction of fields, but in our every development project, you have a reduction of the vegetation and an increase in the impervious surface area. And that's significant because the reason why we have a climate crisis right now is the fossil fuel emissions, yes, but on the other side, we have destroyed natural vegetation everywhere. And it's the increasing acceleration of that even today that is further exacerbating the climate problem. And what we need to do in each of us in our decision making is to minimize the impact on the nature, reduce fossil fuels, and restore the nature that we've altered, or else we're not going to get a handle on the climate crisis. So I'm not trying to impose the whole solution for the climate crisis on Middlesex, but you should be thinking about your impact on the site and the connection with the broader universe that we live in. And we're seeing that we're entering a period now, the coming decade, which is absolutely critical due to all of the accumulated damages we've done. We're reaching tipping points which we thought were not going to be reached until the end of century. We're now facing them for this decade coming up. And so what that requires is that we have to have a full bore effort to protect and restore nature and include that protection and restoration in our every decision making, be it on a site level, a community level, a regional level, statewide, countrywide, and on the continental scale at all the levels. That's what's required. I don't know that humanity is up for that, but we better start, because what matters most to the kids that you're going to be serving with these fields is not the quality of their playing field, but whether they're going to have a planet that they can live on and have a good quality of life. And it's not hyperbole, that is in question right now. We are in dire straits. And the science tells us that. So I'm asking the Middlesex School if you can look at your project, not as a single project, but as a part of a collective, all of which are having a increasing accelerated impact on our climate system and in our ecological system. And what I would ask you to do is if you could take this question to the students at Middlesex and make sure they have all the background, the understanding of the science versus the criteria that you've used to come up with this decision for artificial turf, and let them decide, because it's their future. And those of us here at this meeting aren't going to be around for that much longer, but these kids are. Their lifetime is ahead of them. And we have to do everything we can to try to provide a quality experience for that life. And that is in grave danger right now. And I wish I were exaggerating, but I'm not. And so I'm asking, again, take it to your students and see what their decision is about whether they want to go with artificial turf.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay. Delia, any other public comment out there that you see?
I don't see anybody's hand raised.
Okay. So it sounds like, there's a fair amount of follow-up here, right? Feedback from DPW on stormwater. I know the toxicologist is going to provide us a further report on some of the environmental concerns. Mitigation has to get on the plans in a more robust way, and so on. So are you comfortable for meeting on December 2nd, the next meeting? I think could be ready for that.
I think it depends on what comes out of the conversation with the stormwater. It may be, Steve, maybe we could talk offline, but I'm just thinking it may be prudent to have Mary on next session and address some of the environmental issues. And then depending on what's required from the town ultimately in terms of stormwater, we would circle back the following meeting after that to close it up.
Ed, a question I have.
Yep.
And I know when we are looking at applications, in particular when they are moving within the 50, and we press very strongly in alternatives analysis to show that whatever is being proposed really is the only option, and we ask for that. Given what I heard tonight from the public, there seemed to be, and I appreciate Ryan, your input back, but there does seem to me that really looking and presenting to us the alternative for grass fields versus artificial turf fields. I would like to see that before we make this decision, because I'm not convinced that that is not a viable alternative for this project.
Yeah, well put. So if you guys could take that into consideration as well and present that in further alternatives, that we would that would be appreciated as well. I think.
Can you clarify that? Can you clarify a little bit more on that? It really, I'm not quite sure.
What we've had presented, what you've presented, which is very good information on artificial turf fields there, and we've talked about why not natural turf fields, and information has been provided, but I would like to see a more formal analysis of what are the options for natural turf fields? What, why is that? And then you have artificial turf fields, and we have some alternatives even here for artificial turf fields, to say this really is the best approach to take. I've heard a number of different alternatives, and as we're making a big decision that is going to be around for a very long time, and I think from my point of view, having the due diligence that this is the right proposal, within the wetlands, within our jurisdiction is appropriate.
Yeah, and I would just augment that by saying I think Jane mentioned some forward-looking technology on the biomass side that Minutemen has brought forward. Sharon mentioned, or I think it was Janet mentioned some other, from Osborne up in Marblehead, and I know Ryan might look into that. So because some of the data I saw as well on the ecofill was back in, I think it maybe not as far as 2008, but 2012, 2013. So these fields have been around. They're not the latest thing off the shelf, or maybe they are, but they're still 8, 9, 10 years old. And so, there's a lot of progress out there. So I think it behoove us all if you could start to look a little bit further at some of maybe the latest technology that has been mentioned here tonight as well, and build that into the alternatives analysis.
Yeah, and just a general question to Delia in the purview of this commission is, the understanding that we have looked into this a lot to date. What we have brought to you is something that is proven, quite frankly, and is something that we, do believe in, and we'll continue to provide more information on that product. Coming to these meetings and continually coming out with another open-ended request is something that we're happy to work with this group to make sure that we find something that is going to work long term for not only the school but for Concord and for wider than Concord. So I do have a question about the purview of what it is that we're looking for here coming out of this meeting now with another seems open-ended request. So.
Well, again, I only can speak to that. I'm not sure it's open-ended. I think it's just simply that, it was a discussion here tonight, and certain members raised concerns on the commission as well as members of the public. I think brought forward some interesting information that they've, that has recently come forward to them. And I think it's not an unfair request to say, at least take a look at that in the alternatives so that at least we're covering as much ground as possible. And so we can make a more informed decision with what is out there today. And, based on what you'd like to put in at Middlesex School.
Right, and maybe for just a little more specificity, as Ed said, there's additional information that's come out, and it sounds, Ryan, like you've heard about this rhizomatous turf fescue. But I think what the commission is looking for is the information that has been submitted in regards to the grass fields not being suitable has maybe just been more anecdotal or qualitative rather than quantitative. So if you can document and demonstrate, why those are not suitable and why they wouldn't be under the condition of raising the fields, so that you have better drainage. And then, grassed fields is the conventional, but also looking at this new feature of the RTF, either a standalone or combined with other, I don't know, Kentucky Blue or whatever it is. But it's a question, back to the school as to evaluating different alternatives other than just coming and saying that turf is a better surface because it's going to have a higher playability, because there are environmental consequences that are associated with a turf field that you don't have with the grass fields, in terms of carbon sequestration and, evaporation, that have effects on the wetland resource areas. So just taking a look at how this is, what alternatives might be present that may or may not have, less impacts to wetland resource areas. So it may be that this is the right product, but there just needs to be a little bit more data that's submitted that supports that position. Does that help?
Slightly, yes.
Yeah, I think we can provide more data, and it doesn't, and these types of questions do not hurt. So,
You know, some of the things that preliminary run through my head are, we've done a lot of soil testing out there. We know the soil composition. Other things that we do know is the higher performing athletic fields, sand-based systems require a lot more maintenance and a lot more water to maintain.
So Brian, I'm sorry, I'm going to just interrupt you there and suggest that just in the interest of time, we do have a number of matters still on the agenda that put this together into a submittal that the commission can review.
Sure.
If you can get it in by Friday, this would be on the December 2nd meeting. And that's with a complete submittal, you know, with all the information, including CPW's comments, or you know, push out to the December 16th meeting. So if you want to just continue tonight to the 2nd and then see where you are as of Friday, we can evaluate at that point.
Sounds good.
That sound good? Steve?
yeah,
you good with
that sounds great. Thanks everybody. Yeah, I understand, and I just want to make sure that we do have Mary have a chance to present to this group, and that might only be on December 2nd. And I don't want the rest of the conversation points tonight to just fall off. So.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. We'll see you next hearing.
All right. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're moving on to new applications. Let's see, 56 White Avenue, RDA file number 20-15. We'll be presenting for that.
I will. Margaret Carol Bergman, the homeowner.
Good evening.
Hi.
Great. How you doing?
A little nervous, but I'm okay.
Doing well.
So should I start or?
Yeah, sure. Jump right in.
Okay. The proposed work is to replace an existing timber retaining wall, which is deteriorating, with stone, and maintain wall alignment and grading. The retaining wall separates the front yard from the driveway. So, as you can see, the example of the rotting.
Yeah, sure is. Long gone.
Yeah. And that's a little upside down, but that, I don't know if you can manipulate it.
There we go.
So this is 56 White Ave. It's a 575 square foot house, very humble. And this is our retaining wall, which goes to the corner of the house where the garage starts.
And those are the details of it.
Yeah, those are the engineering plans.
Well, it looks like a nice improvement and an upgrade as well.
That's what the mason said.
I am sure he did with the stone. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thanks, Margaret. I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't have any real comments here. Do any of the other commissioners? No?
It's all being replaced in its footprint and everything else, so. I
Yes.
got nothing to say.
Yeah. Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. Hearing none. You're looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to move to issue a negative determination of applicability, number 3, with the following conditions. Erosion controls consisting of straw wattles shall be placed on the Dowden gradient limit of work. 2, that pre-construction site visit shall be held with the research staff, and the contractor must be there and review the erosion controls and limits of work. Stockpiling shall be outside the 100-foot buffer zone. And 4, after the project has been completed, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NRC stating that all work has been scheduled in accordance with all the conditions of this determination of applicability, and any changes from this RDA shall be described.
Have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, we'll take the vote. Judy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you, Margaret. Good luck in
Thank
your
you.
wall.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Neshoba Brook School, 200 Strawberry Hill Road, RDA file number 20-16. Who'll be presenting for the school tonight?
Hi, I'm Michelle Crowley. Can I start my video?
Hi, Michelle.
Michelle Crowley from Crowley Cottrell Landscape Architecture. I am representing Neshoba Brooks. We recently completed this new barn classroom project there. And in doing the construction of that, they removed an existing garden that is partially in the wetland between the 50 and the 100, and then goes beyond the 100. About 950 square feet of it does fall within between 50 and 100. They would like to just replace this completely in kind. So they would like to, Delia, do you have the other, or blow that up, the existing?
There
Yeah.
you go.
So they have this canopy structure. They kept that, but they would be rebuilding the beds, rebuilding the split rail fence with rabbit fence around it so that critters stay out. They will get new benches, but that will look similar, just these wood benches. The potting table, they'll replace that, as well as the little potting shed in the back. The school uses these as part of their curriculum. Each grade has their own bed that they maintain, and it's part of the preschool plants sunflowers and tracks its growth and the height, and they make graphs from it. The preschool also does butterfly gardens, and they study then the monarch butterflies. The middle school does radishes in a whole farm program, looking at different radishes through the world. So each class has their own thing. They also do a whole thing in the winter of kind of putting the beds to rest through the winter, and they teach the kids about composting. And so those are some of the activities that they do through the school year. And then during the summer, they have, there's some faculty that maintain the gardens through the summer. They also have, some people in the community use these as community gardens. So they would like to just replace it in kind in the same location.
Sure. Thank you. Looks like a great project. I'm envious of some of those courses.
I know, me too.
So I have, again, I have no comments. Looks like, a good project to kind of reestablish there. So any of the commissioners have any comments on this? No. Okay.
I'm envious of the garden.
Yeah, me
itself.
too. It looks a lot better than mine.
I have one little plot.
Yeah. Any commentary from the public on this? Seeing none? Okay, I think we could take a motion, please.
I move to issue a negative determination of applicability number 3 with the following conditions. Number 1, a pre-construction site visit shall be held with DNR staff and the contractor to review erosion controls and limits of work. And number 2, after the project has been completed, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NRC stating that all work has been conducted in accordance with the proposed plans. Any changes to the RDA shall be described. And this is for Neshoba Brook School, 200 Strawberry Hill Road, RDA file 20-16.
Second.
Thanks, Greg. And the vote, Nick,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and Greg,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thank you, Michelle.
Great, thank you very much.
You bet. Next case, 62 Wood Street, RDA file number 20-17. Who's here for the applicant this evening?
I am Lily Morse. I'm a
Hi.
landscape architect for Brian and Virginia Gorley at 62 Wood Street.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine, thank you. So the Gorleys are proposing to put an addition, a garage addition on their house and move their screen. It's a fairly big renovation. They're moving screen porch closer to the wetlands. So when this project started, it was unclear that they were within the 100-foot buffer. And it's still unclear that they're at the 100-foot buffer, but due to its proximity, we are appearing before you tonight. According to the town map, they are about at the 100-foot with their expansion. According to Stamsky and McNary, when this project was flagged that it might be within the 100-foot, came out and staked a line that was actually showed that the project was 175 feet from the 100-foot buffer. So we're somewhere in there. Elise Stone is the architect, and she can explain more exactly how far the house will expand. We can see in this, that architectural plan, I think the other one that we just saw, not the landscape plan. I think there was a survey that showed that the proposed addition, yeah. The existing dwelling and then the proposed addition of the new garage and porch. The existing conditions on the site is that there are walls and gardens on the riverside, on the east side of the project. There's a lawn below the house and fairly extensive gardens. The landscape proposal is to essentially take the existing landscape, which is a terrace and 2 retaining walls, and extend it down into the lawn to accommodate the new construction. And so since we don't have a clear determination about exactly where the 100-foot buffer is, I can't tell you exactly how far we're planning on impinging into that area. We'd certainly happy to put in any erosion control measures or silt fencing that's required. Because this all happened quite quickly, and they were actually, the Gorleys were in the process of moving out to begin construction. We haven't had the new flags. They haven't been surveyed yet. We haven't received the survey, but the flags are physically there on site.
So just to maybe provide a little
clear determination.
Yeah, that would be helpful, Delia.
Just a little clarity on the wetlands flagging. So I showed you on this where the wetlands are shown on the web GIS, which is very close to the edge of the existing structure. And as Lily said, they had Dave Crossman, actually not Stamsky, but Stamsky hires Dave Crossman a lot to do their wetland flagging. And he flagged a line that was about 175 feet away from the structure. And so I went out to review that line, found hydric soils up gradient of the line, but not closer, nowhere near, to the extent that this 100-foot buffer zone is. So the 100-foot buffer zone is somewhere, from here to here. I don't know exactly where it is because it hasn't been surveyed, and, we just took a few soil augers. But in any event, my opinion is that the line that was flagged is not an accurate assessment. We want to have that reevaluated. But for the intent of this particular project, the proposed work is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
That's helpful. Okay.
To be clear, that signifies that it is out of our jurisdiction.
Right.
Yes, that appears.
So not to be foolish, but what are we doing here?
Yeah. I was
So that's
wondering
the
same
purpose
thing.
of the RDA,
Yeah.
Okay.
is to make that call. So
Okay.
that's what the negative number 4 is saying, is that the work is outside jurisdiction.
Okay. Any other comments by any of the commissioners?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to ask, is it common that you get so many different reports on where the lines are? Is this something that we need to worry about?
So that's a great question. And the answer is no, it's not that common. In this instance, let me just see how much of a map this shows. So this is a very, very flat riparian area, the Sudbury River. So Southbridge Boathouse is just the top and right of this figure. With these flat, low-lying floodplain wetlands, the line can vary somewhat dramatically from what we see on the WebGIS, where you have a more abrupt toe of slope wetlands, where you've got a steep slope and the wetland is just there at the base of it. It's often much more consistent with the WebGIS. The WebGIS was created in the 70s. It was based off aerials, soil maps, some ground truthing and vegetation analysis. But anytime that there's a proposed development, the WebGIS is just a planning tool, and an on-the-ground survey is what's required. So it's not common to have this much of a discrepancy.
Okay.
75 feet versus 100 or 75 feet is that's not common. But I don't think it's a reason to be concerned.
Oh no, I'm not concerned about this project at all. I was just surprised that they were so different.
Well, it got flagged by the building department because it was the close proximity to the GIS map, and so they pushed it.
Right. Well, so
us-
every
for us to
building
come
permit
back,
comes to us to Natural Resources.
contact
for-
you.
That's where it got flagged, Lily.
Okay.
These come to us for a sign off, and Karen pulled it up as something that actually
And Delia,
with the homeowner last year about this, to just let us know when they were ready to, go forward with their proposal because they were so close to the wetlands.
Okay, thank you, Delia.
Thanks, Delia. Okay. I think that we have a motion in front of us.
Do we need public comment?
Oh, excuse me. Any public comment here? Okay. Hearing none.
I'd like to make a motion, move to issue a positive determination of applicability number 2B, not confirming the wetland boundary, and a negative determination number 4, that work is proposed outside a resource area protected by under the Wetlands Protection Act and the Concord Wetlands Bylaw.
There's a second. Thanks, Nick. Okay, we'll take the vote. Greg?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're all set. Take care. Let's see. We have Lawson and Nelson, 1695 Lowell Road, RDA file number 20-18. Some invasive mitigation. Who'll be addressing this tonight? Are the owners here tonight to address it, or is there a representative?
It's on the list there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw Lawson on there.
Yeah,
There we go. Sorry.
that's it.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm Nancy Nelson, and I'll be here explaining tonight with Mike, my husband.
Great to have you.
So hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good. So do you want me to start?
Sure, jump in.
So what we want, you can see from, I wish I had a pointer, but you can see this little corner where it says 64. This is basically on our neighbor's property right here is an old farm pond, which is like a mud puddle right now. But there's a lot of invasive bittersweet here for about 38 feet. And then there is kind of a mixed area of about 8 feet of different species of things. Bittersweet, dogwood, buckthorn, a quaking aspen, and a canoe birch, very small, and 2 small walnuts in this area. And then at the very back part of the property, the last 16 feet is almost entirely turned back into native dogwood, 2 different varieties. Oh boy. I forget the exact species, but they have different berries, white and red, I believe. So what we would like to do, and we've been consulting with Parterre, and we have a proposal for cutting and removing all the invasive plants along that side of our hayfield. Actually, it's a big hayfield. Most of our property is in hayfield. Cutting those invasive plant species and then applying herbicide to the stumps and then removing the cut parts of the plants and then disposing of that. And then we hope to be able to replant with native species, replicating either what's there or augmenting with other more particularly valuable native species over time.
Okay, well, thank you. That looks like a great project. It's all for betterment, with the invasives management and removal, and then the replanting with native. So really appreciate that. Looks like
Well, we're very excited, and we hope to have our neighbor abutting us at the end of our property, maybe convince him to do more than harvest hay and maybe take care of the invasion of bittersweet. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, you'll set the example, so.
I'll try. Yeah, and I can ask Delia if I know there are specific recommendations for different kinds of trees and shrubbery and lower growing plants, and we'd really like to know more about that.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. Looks like a great project, great betterment. Any of the commissioners have any comments on it? Nope. Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. I think we're good for a motion.
I move to issue a negative determination of applicability number 3 with the following conditions. 1, a pre-construction site visit shall be held with the Department of Natural Resources staff and the contractor to review the limits of work. And 2, after the project has been completed, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NRC stating that all work has been conducted in accordance with the proposed plans. Any changes from the RDA shall be described.
Nancy, we'll send that. Don't worry. You don't have to write it down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I always try to take notes.
Okay.
But there will be a pop quiz, right?
You never know, you never know. You never know. You never know. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's just finish it up. Do we have
Oh,
a
yeah, I
second?
suppose you have to vote.
Do we have a second on Greg's motion?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Nick. And we'll take the vote. Greg?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thanks very much.
Okay, now, thank you.
all
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Good to see you.
Have a nice
Sorry for
evening.
jumping in.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
To you.
Likewise. Bye-bye. Okay, I think that's the end of the hearings that I see. And so I guess we have some
One more, just one more minor modification.
minor mod. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what was this? This was a slight adjustment on the foundation or the location. Delia, you muted? Yeah,
I'm sorry.
there you go.
I think we have somebody here to speak on this evening.
Okay, thank you.
My name is David Kelly with Meridian Associates.
Hey, David.
How are you guys tonight?
Good, thank you.
So this was previously before the department and received approval. We made a minor change in the front left corner of the building. We expanded the foundation to the plan left 2 feet and then to the plan south 2 feet. So that room that is comprised of that bottom left corner expanded slightly. And then in the rear of the building where there was previously a deck, that back wall, but where the deck is, and then that little bump out to the left of the deck was pushed plan north approximately 4 feet. And the dimension of the patio, the raised patio, remained the same as the porch that was previously proposed. It doesn't propose any impacts to the stormwater system, doesn't increase the limit of work or anything of the sort. It's just a minor expansion of the foundation within the existing proposed limit of work.
Okay, thank you. Sounds all very kind of straightforward and very minor in nature. So again, I have no commentary towards this. Any of the commissioners?
Well, just point out that at no point is it closer to the buffer, to the wetlands
Then
than
this-
the closest point on the original plan.
Okay, thank you. Greg.
Just so it's in the record, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the closest point was on the,
Yeah, we
from
see 67, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just no closer. I just wanted that in the record, David. That's all.
Okay. Any public comment on this? Okay, hearing none. I think we'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the minor modification presented tonight for 210 Park Lane, DEP file 1371540.
Second.
Thanks, Craig. All right, and the vote, Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thanks very much.
excellent. Thank you very much. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yep,
And to you.
likewise.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, next up is 245 Park Lane. Is there someone here this evening to speak to that?
That's all ready for you just to close an issue.
Yeah. I think
Okay, great. So we have a motion to close.
I'll do it. I move that we close and issue an order of conditions for 245 Park Lane, DEP file number 1371547, with finding A, standard conditions 1 through 19, and special conditions 20 through 50.
Second.
And the vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
No, I as well. Okay. And then COCs. Delia, anything on these?
No, you'll be pleased to know that 70 Elm Street has finally got it together and taken out the extra page.
Finally.
Hey.
Yes. So go.
Win the World Series.
And then the second one is just for the additions and decks for the property at 449 Strawberry Hill
The
Road.
previous.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So do we,
I make a motion to issue certificates of compliance for DEP file numbers 137-1454 and DEP file number 137-1435.
And the two others?
I think those are the
We're
two.
not doing
The
those.
two have come off. It's just these two.
No, just those. two.
Okay,
A second.
thanks, Nick. We'll take the vote. Judy,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and Nick,
Aye.
Greg,
Yep, aye.
and I'm I as well. Okay, lastly, other business, admin approvals.
Okay.
Yes, Judy.
We had minutes
Oh,
That's-
yes.
provided to us.
Yeah.
Were we going to vote on those this evening?
Yeah, let's come back around to that. Those are the October 7th minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for that reminder.
Sure.
I
Any-
found one typo that I just sent in this evening to
Okay.
Karen.
Yeah.
Was
I
my,
missed that. I didn't have any comments. Anybody else?
No.
I
Okay,
will say I appreciate the thorough review that everybody gives these minutes, catching the typos. It's much appreciated.
well,
As well as
You know,
the
I wa-
substantive comments.
I took that MACC review they did of recent law and recent decisions, and the one thing I got out of it was how incredibly important the minutes are.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm curious, and maybe go ahead and take the vote and we can talk about this afterwards, but I have a question about that workshop.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of October 7th with the punctuation that Nick has mentioned. I guess that's my motion.
Yeah. Second.
Okay. And the vote, Sarah,
Aye.
Nick, Greg,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
and I'm an I as well. Thank you for that reminder, Judy.
You're welcome.
And now on to administrative approvals.
Sure.
Delia, did you have a question for me?
I did. I just wondered whether they got into any specificity on how detailed the minutes need to be, because as I understand it, the minutes just need to capture the gist of the conversation, what is being voted on, who makes the motion, and the actions that are actually physically taken.
They
But-
didn't give anything prescriptive like that, but what struck me was when things were appealed, the minutes were what they looked at.
Yeah.
So if you've got anything you think is even moderately contentious, you better be very careful about how you write it up, especially any points that might be appealed.
Mhm.
Hey, Nick, just out of curiosity, the minutes holding that degree of importance as against the recording of the meeting? Just curious.
The minutes are what's legal.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
The
okay.
minutes are like testimony. It's like
Mhm.
testimony. It's
Yeah. I will say Karen does a great job with those.
Oh, she does. It's amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah, very, very detailed.
Mhm.
Thanks, Nick. Now onward.
So a couple of see, a lot of things happened with the last windstorm and was it the snow? I think it was just the wind a couple of, like a week or two ago. We had a tree come down off, this is a piece of conservation land here at 5B Pond Street. Tree came down on this homeowner's fence. It's sort of lying in their yard right now. And there's a second tree that is right about here that is not down yet, but it's completely entwined with bittersweet. Another willow just on the border of the 25-foot no disturb, and it's looking to come down at any time. So I've asked Public Works if they can take this tree down, as well as remove this tree that's fallen into this homeowner's yard.
Okay.
The second tree is, let's see, again on conservation land, and this one fell from the conservation land. The red line is the property line. This is the 25-foot no disturb zone. So it's within the 25. It's fallen onto this guy's septic system. So it's again just tipped over onto the homeowner's property. So it's just going to be a cut and remove of that tree. Then we have one, it's an elm on the corner of this gentleman's property on 160 Lawsbrook Road. Again, conservation land right next door. And what he'd like to do is cut this tree and fell it into the conservation land, which would be fine with us. He's just going to cut it up and leave it there for habitat. And he is willing to replant with a red maple. And then the last one is 187 College Road. This is the house here. There are 4 trees just sort of on the border of the 50-foot no disturb zone. They're small, but the homeowner's concerns that they're growing and they're leaning over the house currently. And so he would like to remove their 4 small birch, and he's willing to replant with small native replacements. So hopefully
Great, makes
those are
sense.
all
Yep.
all good with people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good here.
Great.
all good with me.
Okay,
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome.
great. So I
Oh,
guess last,
I had a question about administrative approvals, Delia.
Mhm.
The MACC, one of the workshops I just did, I forget her last name is Steele, I think. From
Jennifer
Brookline.
Steele,
Is she from Newton or Brookline?
Newton.
Anyway, she said she had a process for administrative approval of certain invasive species removal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, if you've haven't talked to her about it, maybe you could. Maybe it's something that might simplify things a little bit for some homeowners who have invasives that they want to get rid of and not have to go through the whole and expensive process of. I mean, maybe she does. Maybe what she's doing isn't good. I don't know, but that's why.
Well, so I'm just I'm actually working on with the CISMA, the Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area, that we're a member of with 37 other communities in the Suasco watershed. In order to get invasives projects permitted for homeowners, we're trying to get a general permit issued so that the town can apply on behalf of the homeowners. And then there's an order of conditions that's issued that basically will require the homeowner to provide certain information that we just sort of standardize and go through an administrative review process. But I think it's a little sketchy personally to be doing more than what we do with the administrative approvals, because DEP technically requires an RDA for one tree to be removed from a property. So we're trying to, I mean, I've talked with people at DEP about this and they're aware that we do this, but invasive species removal projects as admin approvals it's a little bit more than I would be willing to recommend is an approach. I'm happy to talk to Jen about it and see if maybe she does this, when they're 10 feet into the buffer zone, and that might be something, that would be okay. But when you're within the, 25 foot or 50, that gets a little
No, I agree. Just that it is expensive for people to go through the process. And if people have fairly trivial things and we can support the
Right.
removal of invasives, then
I mean, I would say with RDAs, you know, like with Nancy Nelson, and
Yeah.
Lawson, they just came in. I mean, I met with them, said, draw it up on a GIS plan that you put off the website. There's a legal notice fee, but there's no filing fee. And they come and they present it. So it's a little bit of an effort. It takes, you know, some time to fill out the RDA, but we encourage it through the RDA process rather than NOI as an effort to minimize the cost for the homeowner, because it's something that we obviously want to encourage. But I personally think it's important that there's some commission eyes on those you know, beyond the administrative approval.
that's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick, for bringing that up. Okay, I guess we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great. Everybody good with that?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Aye, aye. Great.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Yes,
Thanksgiving.
happy
And to
Thanksgiving.
you.
Happy
Have a good one.
Thanksgiving,
Safe.
everybody. Thank
Yeah,
you.
stay safe.
Bye.
Take care.